Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Tim, and I'm back with something slightly different. As you can see, I've got this new cool boom arm, two awesome black eyes. Long story short, I got hit in the nose with a baseball during one of my baseball practices that I coach for Little League, but neither here nor there. Today, I wanted to share with you a little bit about the Leica M10 and all my thoughts on it so far after a year. And I know that I have multiple videos on my YouTube channel talking about the Leica M10, but I actually wanted to give you an opportunity to see it all in one place. Regardless if you've landed on this channel for the first time, or if this is the second or third time, or if this is like your 95th time landing on my channel, I want to combine all of my thoughts about the Leica M10, the camera that I love so much, into one video for you to watch. So this is probably going to be pretty long, maybe 40 or 50 minutes, but I just kind of want to give you a quick intro about what this video is and why I think it's important, because who digs into the archives of an artist? I mean, I know I do, but maybe you don't. But I'm rambling. Let's go ahead and jump to the very first video of my thoughts of the Leica M10. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. And if you like it, hit that subscribe button. If not, it's no big deal. Who actually subscribes after a YouTuber says subscribe? I don't know, but smash that subscribe button. All right, see you on the upside. What's going on, guys? It's me, Tim, back with another video for you. And today I want to share just some initial thoughts and impressions of a new camera that I bought that I'm sure you might be interested because you clicked play on this video, and that is the Leica M10. Now, I didn't necessarily need this camera. I wanted it. I lusted after it. I could not stop thinking about it for such a long time. As you've seen, if you've seen any of my other videos, I also own the Leica M240, which I thought was just the perfect digital camera. I love that camera. I shot with it daily. And then all of a sudden, I was like, well, let me try the M10. I was just genuinely curious, could the Leica be any better than the M240? I thought the M240 was just an awesome camera. And then I got the M10. Now, let me tell you, I was absolutely blown away about how small it was in comparison to how chunky the M240 is. Now, the M240 is still a great camera, as is this, but this does everything that the M240 does and just does it a little bit better. And what I mean by being a little bit better is the screen on the back of it is clearer. It's kind of weird. So it's like when you pick up the M240 and then you pick up the Leica M10, you could see why people opted to leave the M240 and go to the M10. Now, I got this one on Facebook Marketplace and I paid about $4,200 for it, which is expensive. It's a lot of money for a camera, but I feel as if like Leica's, for whatever reason, holds their value for so much more longer than Canon does. And the other thing is like Leica doesn't consistently bring out new camera bodies. Like if you have the Canon R, shortly afterwards they came out with the RP. Shortly after that they came out with the R6 and the R5. And I'm sure you probably by now have heard about the R3. Now the Leica M240 and the Leica M10 are very close to each other. The color science in the M10 is ever so slightly different, and it also adds a wireless function, so you connect this camera to your smartphone and automatically send your raw DNG files directly to your phone to edit in Visco or whatever camera editing program that you prefer. Now, the one thing that I do really like about this, and I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did, was the little pop-up ISO button here. On the M240, there was a button that you had to press to go through and manually adjust the ISO, but this one, you just kind of pop it up, twist it, and turn it, and then you put it back down, and you're ready to go. I'm not a big fan of auto ISO, because every now and then it kind of tries to measure a scene differently than how I want to shoot it. So being able to put it on like 200, 100, 400, 800, I've even shot this all the way up to 6400 with some pretty decent results. This camera is also one of the big differences between this one and the M240 is it has less buttons on the back of it. This only has 3 buttons, and the thing is this, is like if you're anything like me over the last year and you're shooting events, because I shoot this at weddings and at portrait sessions and stuff like that, and with family sessions, I'm generally like wearing a mask, right? Like, because I'm just trying to be courteous of the people who I'm photographing. So I have gotten accustomed to using live view on every camera that I shoot these days. Because when I bring the camera up to my eye, no matter what I do, when I breathe and I'm wearing glasses, my glasses fog up. So having it look really clear and being able to tell where my focus is, because you can do like the whole focus peaking on this, and I have it turned to red to make it really easy for me to see. I don't necessarily have to hold the camera up to my eye, and I know some Leica enthusiasts will probably balk at that. When you're shooting a rangefinder, it's that natural look that you get when you are kind of just like focusing your camera using the viewfinder patch, and it's super bright and gorgeous, and I wish I could use it more. But just in today's society and with COVID floating around, I prefer to be able to just use the live view since I'm generally wearing a mask. And the fact that it's so sharp on the back of this camera compared to the M240, it's like kind of going from the 5D Classic, which is a really bad viewfinder. The M240 viewfinder is a little bit better than that. But on the M10, it's like shooting with a, I don't know, a Sony A7S II. It's really, or 7S3. It's a really nice, colorful, easy to kind of see what's in focus and what's not in focus. And the great part about it is like you can even punch in to make sure that what you're focusing when you're using live view is in focus. So there's a lot of things about this camera that initially I wasn't sure that I was going to like, but have absolutely fallen in love with. Now, would I recommend this camera to the average shooter? I would, actually. If you're like a fan and you're watching this video, I would 100% recommend this. Now, you can get into an M240 for I believe about $2,700 to $3,400, and you can get into an M10 for anywhere between $4,000 to $5,000 still. But if you are looking for the best experience today, that isn't the M10R or the M10P, which are like $3,000 to $4,000 more expensive than this model, then this is probably the best bet that you're going to get for the experience of modern day sophistication when it comes towards digital cameras and that classic rangefinder look and feel. And I will tell you this, it's an absolute joy to shoot. I typically don't like to do a full review on a camera until I've shot at least 2,000 images on it. Minimum probably about 1,000. I've shot well over that, but I really need to kind of dig in those files and just kind of look at what they look like and to go a little bit deeper. But this is just kind of my initial review. It's sleek, it's an awesome camera, it's a bright viewfinder, super colorful rear LCD screen. There's absolutely nothing not to love about this camera. And if you're leaning on it and you're thinking about it and you have the funds, like I always tell people this, and I always like to end any sort of review or first impression video, that this camera isn't going to make you a better photographer. You can go out and spend $4,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 on a camera and still take really poor images. But I just want to encourage you to continue to work on your craft, to continue to get better, and to continue to take more photographs, because that's really the only way that you're going to get better as a creative. But if you're in the market for an M10 and you're thinking about it, this is just my first impressions. I highly would recommend getting it. You can even rent it at like a place like Lens Rental, or you might be able to rent it at like Borrow Lenses. But maybe you should borrow it or rent it first to kind of give it a go before you full on commit to $4,000 or $5,000 for this camera. That's really it, just my initial reviews. I'm gonna show you a couple of images, maybe 10 to 15 images that I've shot with this. It's an absolute joy, and yeah, I just appreciate you guys watching this, and I will see you in the next video, probably when I do the full review on this one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you're having a great day, and please make sure to subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me, and I'll continue to create these awesome videos for you guys. Hope you're having a great day. Take care. Peace.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Tim, and I am back with another video about the Leica M10, which I have now owned for almost 2 months, and it is a great camera, but I wanted to kind of give you some thoughts and ideas about this camera and about why I am such a big fan of it. There are a lot of cameras I feel out there today that a lot of people on YouTube will shoot with because they have received it as a loaner for like a month, or maybe they had it for like a week and then they had to ship it back. And I always kind of feel like those type of videos, while they're great to give you some first impressions and some initial thoughts and ideas about the camera, 9 times out of 10 those reviews are not people who are actually out using that camera on a daily basis to really kind of get the, you know, a real idea of how that camera works. They're really meant for quick views and likes and follows on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook, and hey, look, I've got this new camera, and I think those are great. I'm not trying to like talk down other YouTubers, but I wanted to kind of give you a real view. Like, obviously I've now had this camera for over a month, so I can't return it. I shoot with it at almost every session, and I have a really good idea about at least almost 2 months in about how this camera works and if this camera is going to be the right camera for you moving forward. Now, I will say this. I'm gonna give you. I want to say this first. I'm gonna give you the bluff, and by bluff I mean the bottom line up front. Is this camera for everyone? No. It's expensive. It's still finding it used today on the Facebook Marketplace or in other camera groups. You're still going to spend somewhere between $4,000 to $4,500 for it. It is a great camera. It does wonderful things. All of the things that the Leica M240, which I also own, which I also love, couldn't do, this camera does. But it's expensive. And I bet you're wondering, is your dollar going to go far shooting this camera? Well, it depends, but the bottom line up front is that this camera isn't for everyone. I would even argue if you are just getting into photography and you have the allure of shooting with a Leica rangefinder, you will come to a conclusion, I feel, that is probably much different than mine. Now, what I mean by that is the shooting experience of this is extremely enjoyable. Like with a Leica camera, you actually have to stop, concentrate on what you're shooting, and then photograph with it. But in the same sense, the Leica M10 makes all of that extremely easy. The viewfinder is bigger and it's brighter. The body is thinner than the Leica M240. A lot of people say it's like the M6. I used to have the M6, I don't anymore, but I do have the Konica Hexar RF, which is also an M-mount camera, and they are about the same size. Now, the buttons on the back are not as many, they're less. There are only 3 real buttons on the back. There are only a couple of things on the top: the shutter, the aperture, the shutter speed, the actual shutter, and this little pop-up button here where you can kind of set your ISO. The button layout is super simple. It is just like, you don't really have to think. Even the menus, when you get into the menus of this, if you've ever shot a Sony, it just makes sense. There's a lot of things about this camera that I think just makes a ton of sense. Now, this is where I think the Leica M10 shines compared to the Leica M240. I'm going to do a kind of comparison review on those two on my channel soon. But I'm a firm believer that I don't like to do a review of a camera unless I've at least shot several thousand images on it. But on this one, compared to Leica M240, it's going to give you a very brief. The buffer processing and writing to the memory card is just insanely fast in comparison. I don't know if there is how much better it can get. I mean, it is fast. The continuous shooting speed, you can just shoot for a while before the buffer actually catches up. The high ISO on this, if you're thinking about shooting this at like 6400, you can still get an excellent image with it. There's really like nothing that I can really say that's really negative about this beyond the price point. The live view, when you're shooting in live view, if you're like wearing a mask while you're out and shooting, is bright and crisp. You can see where your focus is. If you turn your viewfinder to black and white and you shoot in DNG or in the Leica RAW format, it's even easier to figure out what's in focus using the rear LCD screen, which I actually do and use a lot. That combined with the Leica Summilux, like, this could be, this is about $8,000 on a camera, but it's all that you're ever going to really need. Maybe you could get like a wide angle lens, but guys, I'm just telling you this. Now I know I've done a first impressions, and now I've had this camera for 2 months, and I kind of want to just kind of do a quick update, because sometimes like I'm concerned that people feel that like someone gets a camera and they do a review for it and it gets a lot of likes and it gets a lot of reviews, a lot of views on social media, but then you never really hear said YouTuber or said photographer ever talk about that particular camera again. But look, this camera is just absolutely a joy and a pleasure to shoot with. In comparison to the other Leica digital rangefinders, I know there's the M10R and I think the M10D, and I'm sure those are great cameras, but this is probably the best of everything Leica has to offer in a package that's cheaper. Both of those other Leica M10 cameras are about twice the price of this, but it is, guys, I'm telling you, it's just a joy to shoot with. It's a joy to create. The images that I get back, the color science of the sensor in this camera is just fantastic. Now there are some negative things about this camera. The biggest one being the battery life on this camera sucks. Now it is a smaller battery because it's a smaller frame compared to the Leica M240. But on my M240, I used to be able to get through an entire day on one battery. You can't get that on this camera. You have to have at least 2 batteries if you're going to go out and you're going to shoot a full day. Because like your battery will die not quickly, but a lot quicker than what I kind of expected it to be, considering the fact that my M240 battery could last me all day, and I had 2 of those, and I could shoot 2 full weddings and an engagement session really on one battery. Whereas this one, if I'm shooting a full day wedding, I'm gonna at least need 2, maybe 2.5 batteries, depending upon how much I shoot with this compared to my other cameras. But yeah, I just kind of want to give in and give like a brief update after having this camera for well over a month, and I kind of want to give a follow-up. But I'm going to continue to do these type of videos with cameras as I continue to use them, because opinions oftentimes change after you've owned it for a while. And I know the excitement of getting a new piece of equipment can be really exciting, and you can say really great things about a camera. But then after that kind of wears off, if you've owned it for a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, and all these other new cameras have come out, are you still as excited about these cameras as you first had them? So far, 2 months in, I'm still shooting this camera, still loving it, still loving the results. I'm going to share a few images that I've shot with this over the last few months, like I have in all of my videos. But it's a great camera. I think you guys would thoroughly enjoy it if you're in the market for like an M10. But yeah, it's a little bit different review of my first impression. I'm going to do a full-on review, I promise, maybe after I've had this camera for 6 months, maybe 4 months, and I've shot with it several times and in lots of different situations. I already have on this one, but I kind of want to see if that luster, if that sexiness is still there after 6 months after I've shot with it, and make sure that I haven't sold it off to buy something else, which often happens with film photographers and photographers in general. There's always something newer, better out there, but right now, this is my main digital camera. I love it. Still great. I think you would enjoy it if you bought it. But yeah, guys, that's it. And I like to end any of these reviews and kind of thoughts and impression videos is that like this Leica M10 is not going to make you a better photographer. Only thing that will make you a better photographer is actually going out and shooting with the cameras that you have. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you guys like this video, I would love it if you would smash that thumbs up button or subscribe to this channel. Help me get to 1,000 subs before the end of the year. I appreciate you guys. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Mahalo, my friends. So a few days ago, I had a family session or a session, engagement session, anniversary session with a couple who I've photographed before, who I absolutely adore and who I absolutely love. And I took with me only one camera and one lens, and I wanted to be able to kind of just create fully without thinking about the tools that I had, which was crazy because I brought my Leica M10 with the Voigtlander 40mm 1.4, and I shot the entire session on just this camera. And my thought process was that I didn't want to think about what was in my bag. I didn't want to think about another lens. I didn't want to think about another camera. I didn't want to think about anything but the lens and the camera that I had in my hand to create. So the truth of the matter is, I've been in quite a bit of a funk as of lately, just as a creative, as a photographer, and I know a lot of us kind of get into this, and sometimes the tools that we use sometimes can kind of help break us out of that funk. And I think that's part of the reason why YouTube is awesome and why we have these type of channels like mine and like others where we talk about gear and we do reviews and we kind of touch back on it. But the Leica M10 is one of those cameras that I think that I'll never sell. It has just been an absolute joy to use, and I've been in this funk for a while where I've just been working and creating and photographing, and to be honest, maybe I was just kind of going through the motion because I had so many jobs to get done that in the process of getting all of those jobs done that I've kind of stopped creating for myself. And I think there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. And it's a lot of reasons why gear reviews and a lot of reasons why new cameras can sometimes help us get out of it, can sometimes help us create differently, can sometimes help us just be one with a piece of equipment. That's why I'm such a huge fan of one lens, one camera when I go out and shoot sessions, because it forces you to create in ways that you probably wouldn't normally create. So I want to share a few things with you guys today that isn't so much about the Leica M10, but yet it is about the Leica M10, and yet it is about life as a creative and why I've been creating these videos on YouTube, and why I've been avoiding social media as a whole over the last several weeks. And it's been, honestly, it's been amazing for my productivity, but it has also comes with some consequences when you live life where you create things for a living. So it's almost taken me 4 months to get out of this kind of creative funk that I've been in. And I'm not even sure what was creating this feeling of not being adequate. I just knew that I felt as if I wasn't good enough. I felt as if my work wasn't good enough. I wasn't happy with what I was creating. And if I'm being forthright, perhaps I was just so busy with photography jobs and creating stuff that I was working on just trying to finish the job. I felt like an imposter in the very same industry that has brought me so many awards, recognition, speaking engagements, and the opportunity to travel the world and see things that a kid from Hawaii would never dream of seeing and doing. See, for the last 5 weeks, I've given up on social media. Well, really Facebook and Instagram, because it just wasn't bringing me any joy. The constant bickering, complaining, and malcontent of other people was and is still causing me a great deal of anxiety and frustration. The thing has always been that social media isn't really social. It never really has been, and at the same time, social media has also helped me create friends that I would have never have met had it not been for the connections in the smaller groups on Facebook with other like-minded people that I have just been able to connect with. I can honestly say the large group, like my timeline, has been nothing but depression. My timeline has evolved into something that I hoped it never would. I get it. We all grow up and get swept up in things that we feel are important, and Facebook isn't as important to me as it once was, and this break away from social media has proven that in spades. So this may probably be one of my last videos of the year. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it will be the last thing that I share this year, but I want to encourage you with a few things. I want to encourage you to push through when times seem off. When you don't feel good enough, work hard or take a break, but do whatever is best for you. Your online life isn't as important as your in-person life. So I want you to implore you to concentrate on the ones that are important to you. Write yourself a letter. Write a letter to someone important to you. Create even when you don't feel like creating. As much as we share the good things in our lives, it is also great to communicate when we struggle with things in our life. Take a break and breathe. Your work today will be there tomorrow. The people online today will be the same people who will be online tomorrow. Enjoy life because we only get one shot at it. If your photograph gets 1 like or 1,000, or your YouTube video gets 1 like or 1,000 views, people will move on to the next thing, and that's okay too. Maybe this will resonate with you. Perhaps it won't. There is so much to live for other than what we do online. 2021 has been wild. 2022 will be wilder. Let's enjoy it while we can. Life is nothing but a mess, and it's here and then it isn't. So just yesterday, I took my Leica M10 and I created images with 2 people who I adore and who trust me to create images that will hang in their homes. I am incredibly thankful to do what I do for a living. I'm not sure I'm 100% out of that creative funk that I'm in, but I do know I'm getting closer to being out of it than I was 5 weeks ago. Life as a full-time creative is hard, but it's worth it, but life is grand. My prayer for you in 2022 is that you find happiness and contentment. I hope that you find joy in what you create. I hope that no matter what you do, regardless if it's picking up a new piece of gear that's going to help you get you out of that funk, or picking up an old piece of gear that's just been sitting in your bag for years and just going out and creating with it and doing it just for the joy of it. I often find this quote that I heard a long time ago is that success will find you, but it has to find you working. So often you and I, get so caught up into so many of the other things, the particulars like heart-shaped smashes and likes, and looking at gear reviews like the Leica M10 or doing whatever else we're doing in our life, that we forget that we should just go out and create and find joy in that. I hope that you have a great new year. I hope that 2022 is awesome. I'm praying for you guys. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this today. I'm going to share a few images, as I probably already have throughout this video, of this session that I shot, and I'm just thankful that you watched it. The Leica M10 is just an all-time great, and if you're in the market for one, I would highly recommend it. And I would just highly recommend, even if you're not in the market for one and you're just lusting after one, that you take the one lens, one camera life and just create without having to think about all the other things in your bag. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you have a great one, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, or whatever you celebrate. Thankful for you. Thanks for subscribing to the channel, and if you like this video, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 likes or followers or subscribers, whatever they call it. And if I get it, I get it. And if I don't, I don't. And that's okay too. All right. Take care. Peace.
The sun
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Tim, back with another episode about the Leica M10, and I just wanted to share with you guys something. So I just got back from Disney after spending like a wonderful week with my family, and the thing with having like a camera like the Leica M10 is that it is something that you just want to take out with you and shoot with you all the time. And so when I went to Disney, I decided that I was only going to bring my Leica M10, but yet I was going to bring other film cameras as well. Because I was going there for 7 days, I wanted to take a day and shoot each camera and try and shoot it differently than what I have typically shoot. So I brought with me my Leica M10, the Fuji GA645, the Contax TVS2, and I also brought with me my Konica Hexar RF, which I didn't use a ton, but I did shoot a roll of Cinestill through. But that's not what this video is about, not what I brought with me. This video is about the Leica M10 and kind of like my thought process about some of the images that I created with this. As you can see, I'm in my very messy office. I've been gone away for a while, so I decided to just really do this really quick video and kind of say like, hey, so kind of what I did with my Leica M10 is I tried to limit myself to 24 photographs a day with it. Kind of shooting it like how I would if I went to like Walgreens and got a pack of Kodak Ultramax 400, which only has 24 frames, or 36, but mostly what you find at like drugstores is like the 24 frame one, and just shoot like that. So, and I also wanted to kind of show Disney from like a totally different perspective than the photos that you typically see of people that go to Disney. So yeah, I really wanted to limit myself. Although I knew I had a 128 gigabyte card in my camera, I really only wanted to shoot 24 frames per day with this camera to really limit what I took, to help see the world just a little bit differently than what I typically would when you're shooting with a digital camera. So I'm going to share with you guys some of my images that I shot with my Leica M10 at Disney. They are not all great, but they are memories that my family and I will cherish forever. I just want to say thank you a lot for watching this video, and yeah, man, let me show you these images. Yeah, so I would definitely encourage you, if you have a digital camera, to really limit yourself with what you shoot, even as just a creative exercise, just to like act as if you only have one roll of film per day, so you try your hardest to make every image count. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoy the images, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Take care. Peace.
I'll be right home here. You fool out every mind. It's all the same now to leave it. I see red back so clear. Are we somewhere else? I never meant to fight, but now that it's wrong, we're too far gone to lose anymore. All that I had done to find my home with you again. I never felt the fire burning right through, and I know that it's wrong to keep you waiting this long. I've seen how I become. I know what's waiting for me when I remain alone. Fear. Are we somewhere else? I never meant to fight. I know that it's wrong. We're too far gone to lose anymore. All that I've done to find my home with you again. I never felt the fire burning right through, and too far gone to lose anymore. All have I done to find my home with you again? The fire burning right through, and I know that it's wrong to keep you waiting this long.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Tim, back with another video after a long time of not sharing anything. Today, I wanted to share with you something that I've been wanting to share for a while, and that is the differences between the Leica M10 and the Leica M240. I've had both of these cameras for quite a while. I've done several videos in the Leica M10, several videos on the Leica M240. These are my main two squeezes. I love these cameras so much. Wait, that looked kind of weird. But really, I really kind of wanted to dig into these two cameras. So this video may be a little bit longer than some of my other videos, but I really wanted to share my thoughts on these two cameras since they are the cameras that I use extensively for pretty much almost all of my professional work and all of my work that I do just as a photographer, as a dad photographer. Yeah, as a dad who just photographs his kids all the time. These are my two favorite tools that I use amongst a variety of film cameras. So buckle in. This is not going to be as long as Top Gun, but Top Gun was awesome. You should definitely go see it. But this is definitely something that you don't want to miss. And these are just my thoughts on these two cameras, like an M240 and the Leica M10, M240, M10. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the first thing that I really want to talk about are the features of these two cameras. Now, the Leica M10 is a fantastic camera that has a lot going for it, but its price tag can make some people hesitate before buying. Now, the Leica M240 is a great alternative if you're looking for a good and affordable rangefinder camera. However, the two cameras are quite different in many ways, making the comparison a little difficult. So let's take a look at the differences between these two models and find out what makes them so different, and also what might be the right choice for you if you're looking for one of these two. Now, the first thing I think we need to have a little chat about is a naming system of Leica cameras. I know some who may be reading, or those who are watching this may be wondering why we have two separate naming systems for two cameras that were released one after each other, almost one after each other. Now, the best answer, and probably the most reasonable answer that I could find on the interwebs about the naming convention, is that it means the same thing that internal designations by other manufacturers mean. It's a designation of the model within the product name range. Every product has internal designators that are only really used in the broad public discussion of the model. Leica has decided, like some other manufacturers, to simplify the model naming to the architect names for the branding and advertising, like the M, the Q, the T, the SL, the X, and the S, and use those type of specific model identifications for the general public as well. Now, we see this all the time in cars. Like, for instance, you may drive a 2006 Mercedes-Benz SLK 280. Internally is the second series of SLK class cars, the first being the type R170, the second being the R171, and the third being the R172. There are other variations within these types too. The same thing happens in Ford Mustangs, Chevy Malibus, Chevy Corvettes, and etc. and etc. Enthusiasts wanting to more specific ways to identify their car tape by these type of designations, and others often have these type of equipment name changes that are constantly running with inside each model. Most people just know the cars by the year and model name. Enthusiasts of a particular brand know them by year, type, and designation. I don't know about you, but it makes the Leica sound a lot more luxurious by having the M series than like the Sony A7R4. Cue Sony fanboys coming after me. Now let's talk about the build and design differences. As you can tell, the Leica M10 is quite slim compared to the Leica M240. I never quite realized how heavy the M240 was until I got the M10. The M10 is slender and brings back the times of the 1950s Leica M3. The M10 hits all the right things between nostalgia of the old M film bodies with all of the modern touches of today's digital camera. Now the Leica M240 is thicker than a bowl full of oatmeal. This thing is thick with a C and not a K. However, like I said, I've never noticed how thick it was until I was shooting with the M10. Now if I did not own the M10, I would be perfectly happy shooting the M240 as my primary M digital camera. One way that Leica was able to slim down the Leica M10 is by ditching the video function that the M240 had. I have no clue why anyone would ever want to shoot video on a manual focus Leica rangefinder body, but I'm sure someone did and loved it, so I'm not going to bash it. I think in Leica's attempt to keep up with the cameras that made an error in adding video to the M240. Now, they corrected that error with the M10. The differences don't just stop with the size of the camera bodies. The viewfinder in the M10 has a greater magnification than the M240 at 0.73 compared to the M240's 0.68. The biggest design difference is always also what's on top of the camera and what's on back of the camera. Leica moved the ISO dial from the button on the back of the M240 to the knob on the M10 that is on top of the camera. Typically, this is where you would find the rewind knob on most Leica film cameras. But wait, there's more. The button layout on the back of the camera is also completely different from the M240 to the M10. Leica decided to go with less is more in this design aesthetic and took away buttons the M240 had, and leaving the M10 with only 3 buttons compared to the 6 buttons you would find on the back of the M240. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the battery life. Now, there is a difference between these two, and I want to give this an aspect in this review, a slight asterisk, because of the time that I actually purchased my M10 versus the time that I've had my M240. I bought the M10 at the beginning of 2021, and for most events that I photographed in 2021, I wore a mask and I wear glasses, making looking through the viewfinder of any camera extremely difficult. When I'm photographing weddings, I've grown to use the back LCD screen as my viewfinder. I've done this so much over the last 2 years, it is almost impossible for me to go back of looking through the optical viewfinder on either camera or any camera, especially the one in the M10. All that being said, with the smaller body comes a smaller battery. That means the M240, which means less time shooting with the M10 before I have to change out the battery. Today, while using the rear LCD screen as my monitor when shooting a wedding, I get about 8 to 9 hours of battery life with the M10. When I'm using the optical viewfinder only, I can get about 2 days out of this battery. When I'm using the Leica M240, I can get 3 or 4 days using just the optical viewfinder because the battery is so much larger. I've never shot the M240 in live view, but I'm certain if I did, I would get slightly longer use since the battery is bigger than the Leica M10. Now, I want to talk about the menu design in the rear LCD. If there's one gigantic, noticeable difference between the M10 and the M240, it would be the rear LCD and the menu layout. The menu layout in the M240 looks and feels what you would want a menu layout to be for a camera released in 2012. It is a little dated, but still serves the purpose of having absolutely everything a photographer would need while making easy decisions when you're navigating the menu. Now, the Leica M10's menu feels up to date despite being a camera that is now 5 years old. The button layout on the back of the M10 simply makes sense with 3 large buttons versus the 6 small buttons on the Leica M240. To me, personally, the biggest jump is in the rear LCD quality. The images of the Leica M10 jump off the rear LCD screen. They are vibrant, you can easily tell what's in focus and what is not in focus. The LCD on the M240 is okay. It's not great, but it gets the job done. It's the best way I can communicate the differences of the M240 is like driving a Honda Accord. It's a great reliable car and will get great gas mileage, but the M10 is like driving a Maserati when it comes to the rear LCD screen. Now, I want to give you a couple of reasons why you should buy the M240. I think the main reason why anyone should buy this today in 2022 is the Leica M240 is because of the price point. You can get into an M240 in pretty good condition for around $2,000. It's about 80% of the Leica M10. Another reason why you might want to buy the M240 is because maybe you enjoy shooting video, and this could possibly fill in as a C-roll camera if you're in a pinch. But hey, at least you have video that you can shoot with. One more reason you would want to buy the M240 over the M10 is the M240 has the anti-alias filter, which means the M240 will control those funky lines that you see more than the M10. Now, the last reason I personally would consider the M240 would be because of its size. It's a bit heavier, feels a bit more substantial in the hands. Plus, if you ever needed to fight off someone when trying to steal your equipment, you can use the M240 as a club that could do some serious damage to the perp. Now, let's talk about a reason why you should buy the Leica M10. This is also going to sound weird since I had it as a reason why you should buy the Leica M240, but it is the price. Leicas are already expensive, but the great thing about Leica is that they hold their value for an extremely long time. They do not depreciate at the rate that other digital cameras do. And at the moment, you can buy a Leica M10 for about $4,000. Now, I know that is about $2,000 more than you can get the M240, but if you compare it to the $8,500 a Leica M11 costs, then you know it is still quite the steal in price. Another reason why you may want to purchase the M10 over the M240 is the large viewfinder. You can see a little bit more of the scene before someone enters or leaves your frame lines. I also think a huge plus for the M10 is the more detailed LCD screen, especially if you have become an LCD screen shooter like myself. I will say another reason is the Leica M10's faster burst shooting mode. The Leica M10 shoots at a burst rate of 5 frames per second, while the Leica M240 only shoots at 3 frames per second. And if you're shooting on a memory card with a high refresh rate, you can make the Leica M10 fly when you need it to, which you can't quite do with the M240, although the M240 is no slouch in that aspect either. There are also a few other features that I would like to mention that I've never used. One is the Wi-Fi. That's not even a word. I don't even know what. Wi-Fi, you can use Wi-Fi to get your JPEGs over to your phone, and using a time lapse for images that might tickle something for you, but that doesn't fit my style of photography, so I probably will never use either one of those features. My final conclusions about the M10 and the M240 is, let's be honest, if you're reading or watching this review on YouTube, you probably already have made up your mind with which Leica is best for you. You're probably searching for confirmation bias and why you should spend your hard-earned money. Now, the short of it all is that both of these cameras are extremely capable of living on your camera straps around your neck for at least the next 10 years. They are both great cameras. One just has a little bit more technology than the other. I do, however, like to end these reviews with the same thing, and that is neither of these cameras will make you a better photographer. One may make your life slightly easier as a photographer,
but the only thing that will make you a better photographer is actually working on your craft and getting out and using whatever camera you buy to take a lot of photographs. So often we as creatives can get so wrapped up in what we create and why we create that we forget why we are creating. I personally think both of these cameras are great options as your new used camera. As a long run review of these, I have used both of these extensively over the last several years, and I can say nothing but high praises on both of these. Now, the Leica M240, you're going to miss out on some features on the M10, but on the M10, you're going to miss out on some features of the M240. They're both great cameras. Neither are perfect, but you will enjoy shooting either one of them if you're looking into getting into a Leica digital camera. Now, I've owned the Leica M6, the Leica M4, the Leica M10, the Leica M240. I've also owned the Konica Hexar AF and RF, which all take M-mount lenses, and the Zeiss Icon. I cannot tell you how high I can speak on these cameras as tools for photography, but if you're looking into getting one of either one, you really can't go wrong. Which one's better is totally subjective to the person using it, or to the wallet that the person is who's spending their money. But what I would suggest is get what you can afford and invest in lenses. I just want to say thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And if you like this video, please give me a sub, and we will show you some images from these cameras, and I will also share you some B-roll of both of these cameras. My Leica M240, the rear LCD screen is broken, but it still works just as great as the day that I bought it, which was also broken. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Peace.
I promised many of you on this channel that I would not put out a review of a camera and then just abandon ever talking about that camera again. I personally feel that so many photography YouTubers get a piece of equipment to review for the rants, raves, likes, and subs. Then you never hear that photographer talk about that piece of equipment that they have convinced so many of us to purchase or to contemplate purchasing ever again. That is not what this channel will ever be about, because I think getting a piece of equipment to use for 2 weeks does not tell the entire story of what that piece of equipment or how that piece of equipment functions. It does not tell you how someone thinks about that same piece of equipment made them feel once the excitement of shooting something new or different wears off. So today I want to share with you my thoughts on the Leica M10 about 1 year after owning it.
Now, the Leica M10 has been my daily driver and my everyday carry for just about every event I shot in 2022 and half of 2021. It is also one of the few cameras that I shot a lot of my personal work on over the last year plus. To be honest, after buying the M10, I was actually afraid to shoot with it because I thought I would ruin the body and scratch it up, so it sat on my shelf. Even when I would have an option to take it with me to shoot, I would always opt for something that had autofocus or that I could move a little bit faster with and get in and out of situations without much thought. The truth is, I spent months lusting after a tool that I was not willing to shoot because I was not ready to take the time to learn something new and work harder for the imagery that I was photographing. Then one day I decided to not let my Leica become a collector's item on my shelf, and I took it with me to a wedding that I was going to photograph. At first, I used the M10 for the quieter moments of the day, like getting ready, and then I would use my Canon equipment when I needed something that could just adjust quickly on the fly or that I was a little bit more used to. When I got home from the first wedding of shooting with the Leica M10, I was drawn to those getting ready images. The Leica M10 was quiet and small, allowing me to insert myself into situations where I would not typically insert myself with my DSLRs. Now, the imagery out of my M10 was rich and personal. I felt more like I was documenting the day instead of photographing the day. I know that may sound weird, but it's really amazing how a new tool like the Leica M10 can change how you see things. It can show you a different view of the world. I had been so used to carrying cameras like the Canon 5D Mark III and Mark IV that I started to believe I had become lazy with just shooting safe shots. My work had become somewhat rinse, lather, and repeat, and the Leica M10 pretty much changed all of that for me. The second thing that I want to chat with you about today is if you're coming from a DSLR or other mirrorless system, that the Leica M10 is an incredibly small compared to some of the other offerings from Canon, Nikon, and even Sony. Perhaps the only camera that you can get in a package as small as the M10 is from Fujifilm, and those cameras are crop sensor bodies. They still deliver excellent images, but are not full frame like many pros are accustomed to shooting. The fact that such a small package combined with high quality, small lenses can pack such a punch is actually pretty still mind-boggling to me. I've tried out at least 12 different M-mount lenses over the years, and I've had a great experience shooting them all. However, my two favorite lenses have been the Leica Summilux 51.4 and the Voigtlander 40mm 1.4. The crazier part about both of these lenses is that you can already take an incredibly small combination with the Summilux, and you can make it even smaller with the Voigtlander. The camera and lens combination can be put in a small fanny pack or a small camera bag like the Peak Design 3L bag, and it would not weigh you down. And when you can own something that you can grab and go and not have to think about the weight on your back or your shoulders, it makes it by far more enjoyable to take it out of the bag and photograph something with it. Now, the last thing I want to share about this M10 a year later is the price, resale, and the justification for buying almost a 6-year-old tool. The Leica M10 was released in 2017 and it cost about $6,500. I just checked the eBay sold listings and people are still buying the Leica M10 from anywhere between $4,000 to $5,500 depending on the camera condition in 2022. To put this into perspective, the Nikon D850, the Nikon flagship camera, was also released in 2017, and the MSRP for that camera was $3,600. Today it's been sold on eBay from anywhere from $1,300 to $1,900. Nikon, from my understanding, is no longer making DSLR cameras anymore, so in the same amount of time, the Nikon depreciated at a greater rate than the Leica camera. The Nikon declined by 62% compared to only 38% of the Leica at the lowest price currently being sold on eBay. That is not to say that the Nikon D850 is a Leica camera. It isn't. But if you're choosing what system to get into, perhaps depreciation would be a part of the equation of your decision making.
You'll probably sell a camera to buy a new model at some point in time. The camera manufacturers are not creating cheaper cameras. So you might as well get into a camera that will depreciate less, and I know each camera is used for different things, so if you're a sports photographer, then the Leica will probably make no sense for you. But if you're documenting things in the world, I know many of you would love the Leica. Now, I also know that you don't necessarily need a reason to buy a Leica other than just the fact that you want one, or you've been saving up for one. But the price combined with resale value of the Leica M10 makes it pretty easy to justify the price. Now, I always like to conclude each video about a piece of equipment with the same thought. No one camera will make you better at your craft. The cameras that we shoot are exactly that, they're cameras. I pray that you actually learn to just adjust your eyes to see the world differently. And the only way that you can do that is by taking the camera that you currently own, point it at something, and photograph something with it. In fact, I have actually stopped taking photographs with my iPhone, and I've always carried a physical camera with me. I know the iPhone takes fantastic photographs, and it can be a camera, but I want to get better shooting my cameras, so my phone is utilized for web browsing, text messages, and phone calls. Perhaps you will take the new camera you just bought with you, and I want to challenge you to go out and take at least 36 photographs a day, the equivalent of one roll of film. And I cannot wait to see what you create. Now, the Leica M10 is one of my favorite cameras of all time. But like I said in the beginning of this video, I promise that I will not just abandon reviewing this camera and letting you know how this camera works in different situations, such as family photography or street photography, or going out when you're shooting weddings and documenting it with the Leica. Now, it does present some unique challenges, and it also presents some unique things that will really kind of help open your eyes and see what you're shooting differently. Now, I know that I've shared with you several videos about this camera, and I'm going to continue to share with you several videos about this camera. It's my favorite camera. And the only way that you can get better or think about buying this is by having more information that you can possibly, as much as you can possibly get with this camera. So if this is something that you're into, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel. And I promise to continue to giving you true, honest, meaningful content about this particular camera and other cameras that I own, and lenses as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you clicking in this video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.